If you're alone in terrain like this and sprain an ankle, you're in big trouble if you have a long way yet to go. So the best thing to do is not to be alone and to have a first aid kit. But life happens. So let's see what's in the bag and what we might be able to improvise with what we have. Twisting an ankle when you're on a bug out by yourself with a long way to go, it's a really bad situation, and you want to avoid it because you need all of your physical capabilities just to get to where you're going. So avoid it if at all possible. Don't travel alone. Take a good first aid kit, but you know, we understand that things happen and you've got to do the best with what you've got. Gonna have to scavenge an old t-shirt. I want a t-shirt and not the chamois because I want my bandages to be flexible. I have a little bit of duct tape, which could work, but it's just not enough. Fortunately, I have some electrical tape. I don't want to wrap with plastic, but it's what I have. All right, we're gonna pretend that this is my bad ankle. I'm gonna leave the sock on. What I'm gonna do is cut the hem off, and then I'm gonna cut the t-shirt from the bottom up to the armpit, and then stretch it out, and I'm gonna cut a strip lengthwise all the way around like this, and I'll probably need to make several of those. I have another shirt here that I already practiced on. You might be tempted just to tear the strips, which you would do if you were in a big hurry, right? Like if somebody was bleeding and you needed to get some wrap really quick, you could just cut a little notch in it and then tear it. But the problem is when you tear it, it stretches the fabric right at the edges, and then you get a lot of curl, and it makes it really hard to use as a bandage. See how it curls up? It tends to do that anyway when you cut it with a pair of scissors or a knife, but when you rip it, it's even worse. Hey, this is where having a good sharp knife really pays off. All right, I've got the hem off all the way around. Cut it about 3 inches wide. That's one. Now roll it up. The easiest way to roll it up is with the curl down, because as the edges curl, it's easy to push the curl out of the way. Right here, see? All right, so you're gonna cut probably 4 strips out of your t-shirt like that. I've already got some from practicing earlier, so we're gonna use those. I'm gonna be covering it up with plastic, so I want some fabric next to the skin. Also, I don't want to tape my hair down. It's gonna be very uncomfortable. I'm gonna leave the sock on. I'm gonna apply this bandage loosely. I'm just gonna start here, and I'm gonna do a simple wrap, just like a pre-wrap. Go right over the heel. Doesn't really matter if it's very tight, I just need to keep it on. I'll do the same thing again. This is not for support, remember, this is just like pre-wrap. I'm gonna keep these other 2 bandages in case these get wet later on and I need to replace them. When you tape it for support, you wanna make sure that your ankle is at about 90 degrees and turned out this way, not in this way. Not really in a resting position like dangling like this. First thing I need to do is put some anchor tape down at the top up here to hold my stirrups. I need 3 pieces about this long for the top, and then a smaller piece for the bottom. Basically, you put it as tight as you can without cutting off circulation. I know that's hard to figure out, but I recommend you simply do some practicing before you actually ever have to do this in the field. That's my bottom anchor tape. Come to the front. And then cross. Ideally, I would overlap by half the width of the tape each time. I don't know if I can do that with this narrow tape, and I can hardly see what I'm doing. Now the stirrup, since I twisted my ankle this way, I'm going to start here and pull the stirrup up this side. I'm going to go right across the heel bone. I'm going to hold it, pull it tight. I'm going to put 3 of those. And wrap it one time to hold the stirrups in place. Now I'm going to do a heel lock. We'll start right here. Go around, down as if it were a figure 8. But instead of going under the foot and coming back up this side, I'm going to go around the heel. And I want to lock my heel in place like that, right there. And I'll cut that off. And then I'm going to make another one going the other way. So start there, go down here. And remember, not coming up here and coming back around, but going around the heel like this and behind and then back up. Again, this is not ideal. This is electrical tape and it's got some flexibility. And what you really want is some cloth tape that is not flexible and is going to do a better job holding, okay? Given that this is what I have, I'm doing the best I can with it. So I'm going to go ahead and make another heel lock in each direction, another one in each direction. I wanted the heel lock to go across the anchor tape, but it didn't. So if I could do it again, I would do that. You can see where the skin is squeezing out there. So to keep from getting a blister, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this. I don't want it to be too tight and cut off circulation to my toes. I've got a little bit of this left, maybe enough for a skimpy second application later. I'll probably try to save as much of this tape as I can. I'll do one more thing. I'll cut a hole in the sock, just a little place where I can stick my finger in there and feel the toes. If they start losing circulation and getting cold, I'm going to need to know that. I also want to be able to put my finger directly on the skin and touch it and make sure that I have good sensation. I'm going to push the skin. It's going to turn white.
Okay.
And I want to see how rapidly it turns pink again. Well, that's good. I'm going to go ahead and put this big sock on. It's a big loose wool sock. Oh no, it would completely cut off circulation to my foot. So I'm just going to have to walk on the sock. It'll ruin the sock, but it will get me out of the woods alive. And that's the main thing. You know, the best thing for healing a thing like this is rice. Rest, ice, compression, and elevation. But if you have to move, if you have to keep going, it's a lot better than walking on an unsupported ankle. Another option besides putting on that heavy sock is to leave that off and just put this foot back into your boot, which fits just fine. And if you tighten it down snug, give it a hug, not tight, just give it a hug on your ankle. That's going to give you a lot of extra support. Later, you're going to stop, take your boot off, say about 30 minutes later, and then check these areas next to the tape and see if you're getting a blister. And the way to do that without taking your bandages off or cutting a hole into it is just to rub it like this with your finger. If you find where it's numb or it has a tingle, like an electric tingle, that's not a good sign. So then you wanna maybe put that sock on. Hey, thanks for watching. Go to the blog, survivalnewsonline.com. I'll have some links where you can get more information about how to do first aid in the field and how to improvise this kind of thing. All right? I'll see you there.